Hi, I'm Doug from Dynamic Computing, and welcome to episode 144 of 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast. I'm going to be preparing my lovely Amiga 4000 over the next couple of weeks to be my daily driver for a while. I want to dedicate a week to using my Amiga 4000 for everything once I'm out of work. During working hours, I got to use my phone. And this is the first episode that's really covering how I'm setting it up to do it. Now, of course, one of the most important things with modern technology is being online. I mean, if we couldn't get our Facebook fix and our Twitter fix, where would we be? Probably out spending time with our families, I suppose. Commodore had been getting people online since the very beginning. Back in the days of the VIC-20, they had the first sub-$100 300 baud modem that you could get. We were getting on CompuServe, we were dialing up BBSs. Commodore had their hands in Q-Link, which eventually became America Online, and they continued to make sure that their computers up through the Amiga line were able to get online fairly easily. Things started changing when modems started to lose their luster in the early 2000s, and we started moving on to broadband. And yes, in the 90s, even the late 90s, we were still dialing up and getting online that way. Commodore had long since gone belly up, but the thriving Amiga community tried to keep up with things as best they could. There were slip connections. There were little serial interfaces that could interface with your PC and use your PC to get you online. Of course, there were still modems. There were Ethernet cards available for big box Amigas, and of course for the Amiga 600 and 1200, we had PC MCIA Ethernet cards that were still widely available and perfectly usable. Drivers were written, TCP/IP stacks were created, and Amigans kept our systems on the internet through the 2000s. And what about today in 2023? Where are we now? Well, there's more options than ever to get our Amigas online. We've got the Plit boxes, we've got the Guru Nets on the low end of things, we've got the X-surf 100 and the Vampire cards on the higher end of things to get our Amigas online. And you can still get PC MCIA cards for our 600s and 1200s. The internet requires a TCP/IP stack to work, and the Amiga has a few nice options. Back in the day, there was Miami and Genesis, and you may still have a copy floating around, and they work okay. But what's really awesome is we can buy brand new TCP/IP stacks, AmiTCP and Roadshow, and they're still in development. Roadshow is my stack of choice, mainly because it just works. You load it up, you spend about 10 minutes getting it configured, and the darn thing just works like a modern machine, where you turn on your Amiga and it's on the internet. There's no fussing, there's no clicking buttons, there's no launching GUIs. You're online, that's it. And it's really the only TCP/IP stack where DHCP works reliably. Others, sometimes it works, but usually you've got to set it statically. Roadshow, DHCP works fantastic. Honestly, the single complaint I have about Roadshow is it's not available with like ADF files, so we can't make a floppy, or we can't just pop a couple of ADF files on our GoTech and load it onto our machines. We got to take out the CF card or take out the hard drive, copy it over, or find some other way to get the 4 or 5 megabyte file over. Seriously, if that's my only complaint, not too shabby. Now in my Amiga 4000 here, I've got one of Individual Computers X-surf 100 cards, a Zorro 3 card. Also works Zorro 2, a little bit slower. Fastest card I've seen for Amiga networking. So much faster than the Plitbox and Guru Net. Substantially faster than the Vampire's Ethernet. And the only thing that comes close is a good PC MCA card in the Amiga 1200 if it's accelerated. That can at least be in the same ballpark. I really like it. So this is not going to be a training session on Roadshow at all. I don't have time for that. We'll do that in another episode. Basically, once you install Roadshow, you're going to get these new folders, net interfaces here. I've got my X-surf 100 in there. That is not a driver. What that is that's kind of a configuration file designed for the X-surf and points to it. The actual drivers, once you install the software, are in your storage folder under net interfaces, and you actually see these files in here for different networking cards, Plitbox, Ariadne A2065. And if you don't see it in here, you can usually download these configuration files off of Aminet. There's some good resources for that. The actual drivers for the card, the .device drivers, you're going to download from the manufacturer. Let's take a look. You know, you see printer device, serial device, etc., etc. You're looking for an actual device for your hardware. Like in this case, there's my X-surf 100.device. You need to download that from Jens. Some of the other manufacturers, like the Vampire Crew, will have a driver for theirs. Put it into devs. Let's take a quick look at the configuration. Your configuration file is going to be in your devs folder right here. We'll go to devs, net interfaces. Here's my X-surf. Let's go ahead and open that up. And see, it's calling the X-surf device right here. And there's a lot of stuff. Most of them are just comments, but here's the important thing. Configure equals DHCP. That means it's going to use DHCP to configure things. If you want to set it statically, you definitely can. You just set your address and your netmask here, and you have to open other files to change your gateway and your DNS settings. But let's save that for an actual training course on Roadshow. The end result, when you have Roadshow running, is you can ping anything you want to. So here's Google's DNS servers. Beautiful ping. Hey, look, it's Tenmark's website pinging with a pretty slow response. Let's talk about one of the most exciting new additions to the Amiga sphere here, and that is the ability to use SMB 2.0 and SMB 3.0 shares right from your Windows computer. Basically, it means we can have a new drive show up right over here that is a shared drive on our network. So if your PC running Windows 10 and Windows 11, you share a folder, you have a network attached storage drive, you share a folder there. Now I'm going to put the links in the description to all of these files, but this is literally how it works. This is a conversion of the Amiga OS 4 Samba drivers, SMB drivers, for SMB 2 and 3. In the past, Samba that we used to use only used the deprecated SMB 1, and that's now not enabled by default, and I don't like Samba anyways. It's so darn complicated. This was ported over by a guy named B.S. Zilli, and you'll see the links in the description. Basically, you download this file here, SMB2 handler, you copy that over to your L folder, L:" folder, okay? Then you download this file called FileBox68K, file sysbox, and you look under libs here. There it is. Rename that file 6box.library. Guess what? You copy it to your libraries folder. That's it. You've now installed all of the components you need for connecting a network share. Now, what's next is you have to actually create the share. Let me show you how to do that. An easy way is to go into your DOS drivers folder. Find any one of these DOS drivers here. It doesn't matter which one. Make a copy of it. I've already made a copy here that's actually mostly filled out. You'll take your favorite text editor. I happen to use TextEd. And you're going to open up the new copy of the DOS driver that you just copied. So we're going to copy Doug share. Now mine's already filled out. Yours is going to be full of totally different text, which you'll then erase. And you type this in, and I'll have the link in the description of what you have to type. Handler equals the name of the SMB handler. Nice fat stack size, priority, activate equals 1. Here's the key. Startup equals SMB : your username on the account. My username is Doug on my computer that this file is shared at. Then a colon. Then your password. I've got a password right there that you're looking at. And then the @ symbol, and then the name of your computer and the share. Desktop-7LSNCBU /Amiga. That's the name of my share. Guys, that's it. Now once we do this, you save it and you rename this to whatever name you want to actually call your share. In my case, it's Doug Share. Now, what I did, and I have a specific reason for this, I moved this file over to another location because I don't want it to execute automatically, and you rename it, and then I left it out on the desktop. Look what happens when you double click this now. Boing, boing. Look at this. A share literally just appears right there. Now we're going to open it up in Workbench, and you're going to see your shared folder on your Windows machine with all your stuff inside of it. See, here's all my Club Toaster stuff that I've been working on. Now look how fast this is when you access it from the shell too. So we'll just go here. Let's launch the shell. Now the name of it, you can access it by the actual name of the share, which is really long, or you do it by the name that you gave to your little file. Doug Share. There it is. And look at the directory. Now let's go to CD Club Amiga, do a directory. These are pretty big files here. Let's go ahead and copy a big file. Here's a fairly good sized file. Here's a Recline, and it's in a WAV format. Let's go ahead and copy that over. How big is that? 43 megs. So we're going to copy .wav to RAM. We're going to see how fast it goes over the network here using SMB 2/3. And it just copied over that 43 meg file to RAM. That is pretty cool, isn't it? Now, the reason I'm copying this out here and not leaving it in DOS drivers where it would launch automatically is because of this. Normally, your bind drivers, where it's going to load all the DOS drivers, that's executed from your startup sequence. So we've got bind drivers down here. All right. There it is, bind drivers. That's where it loads it. If I put this file in the DOS drivers folder in devs, it's going to try and launch it and create that share as soon as it hits that. But the network does not start until user startup is called a few minutes later, and then it starts the network right here. So it tries to bind the drive before the network starts, and that doesn't work. Now, of course, what I could do, I could just put a mount command right down here, mount, and then the path, and then Doug Share, boom, it mounts it after the network starts. And I may do that, but this works fine. So what's the use of this? Well, let's say you got Hippo Player on here, okay? Here's our friendly Hippo Player. And let's say you want to play a file. Volumes, look, there we are. And let's go to mods. This is on my computer in the other room. And we're going to do a Hoffman mod. Drop the panic. There we go. Now, that little guy is going to play right over my network. So maybe you set up a nice little list or a nice little playlist, or you tell it to play everything in a folder, and you can play your mods right off of your Network Attract storage drive, no problems at all. Let's also say that you want to mount some happy little files. Now, of course, our friends who created Amiga OS 3.2 have their own built-in utility for it. I often use image mount. Let's say here's an ADF file. We're going to go back to my network share, and let's just find a nice ADF file. Go into games here. Now let's find a good game. How about Miss Pac-Man? Everyone loves Miss Pac-Man. ADF file, flippin' mapped right over the network drive. And here it is right here. Look at that. Miss Pac-Man right over the network drive. Pretty darn slick. Now, of course, a couple of months ago, I did an episode on FTP on the Amiga and setting up an FTP server on your desktop. Absolutely, that still works, but with the ability to connect the SMB drive so darn easily now, it's certainly not as important, but go ahead and take a look at my video on FTP. I still use it sometimes. So we're online here. What do we want to do? Well, we want to get our email. So what do we use for that? I use Simple Mail. Now YAM is also a very good mail client. It only supports POP3. It doesn't support IMAP, but it's still a good client. But you can use Simple Mail to grab either your POP3 or IMAP files, and open up your things here. Oh, Patreon, your community would love to hear from you. Yes, I know they would. Hey, tell them what we're working on. Get all your email here. Reply to all your email. No problem at all. You can get attachments. Most of them work okay. Now let's take a look at how this is set up. We go into configuration, and under Simple Mail configuration accounts, I have my Douglas at dctechaz.com. But look what I've got here. I've got POP3 instead of IMAP. IMAP is a vastly superior technology. Why am I not using IMAP? Because Simple Mail does not have any capability to tell it how little or how much email to download from IMAP. So it literally tried to download 30 gigs worth of my IMAP email and sync it on my Amiga. The Amiga was going to do it. It was working fine. It was just going to take way too long and use too much storage space. I went to POP3, and with POP3, you were able to tell it to only download mail from today onwards. And it just really made it a lot easier. I just was able to download a little mail. Now, the other cool thing, when you receive mail, when you check your mail, let's see if we can do that. It's going to be checking my POP email. It comes up with a list of email that you can possibly download, and you can literally tell it to ignore some emails. So if you've got some emails with some big 15 meg files that are totally irrelevant to your Amiga, you can literally just tell it, don't bother, just pass them by. That's a setting you make in Simple Mail. Normally it downloads everything, but I went ahead and told it, let me tell it what to download and what to not. You just select what you want, tell it to download, boom, you're good. Now there's some issues with using modern email on an Amiga, and to be honest, there's issues using modern email on any computer before about 2012. A lot of these email companies like Gmail and Microsoft are making it so older email clients literally don't work anymore. Like Outlook 2007, Outlook 2010, they're perfectly fine email clients. It's POP3 email, it's IMAP, who cares? They block it completely in the interest of security. Yeah, but it's my email. I can do what I want with it. There are some workarounds. What you need to do, and I'll use Gmail as an example, is if you're just using regular old Gmail at gmail.com, you're not using two-factor authentication, I think to this day you can still go into your account management on your PC and tell it, allow older apps to connect. There's a setting in there to do that. And then it allows old equipment to connect. I think they're deprecating that. They may have deprecated it already. I think it might be gone. Option 2, turn on two-factor authentication, so it has to text your cell phone whenever you, connect to a new email client somewhere. Turn that on. Then on your PC, go into your Google settings, your actual Google account, not just your Gmail settings. There will be under security something called app passwords, APP passwords. This generates a single use password that's good for one device and one device only. It's a 16 character, just random numbers. You can't set it yourself and you never need to do it again. Create that password, write it down or copy it, come over to your Amiga, set up IMAP, set up POP3, put in that custom app password, boom, it works. That way Gmail knows, okay, it's the real owner, they're doing it on this one device, we're gonna let it work. Next up, we have web browsing. And the best web browser on the Amiga right now is still iBrowse. Now, long ago, I did a review on iBrowse, and I'll link it right here. And my opinion is the same. It's a good, solid, and basic web browser that needs to sell for half the price that it's currently going for. Right now, 60 bucks. You know, it's a web browser. Don't sell it for 60 bucks. Sell it for $30 and you will sell 4 times as many copies. You do the math and you make twice as much money that way and have twice as many or 4 times as many products out there being advertised and people talking about. Okay, enough about that. iBrowse is updated every couple of months. Right now it's up to 2.5.8 and they do a great job of that. You can just go to the iBrowse website. It's iBrowse-dev.net. I'll have a link in the description. Go to downloads, and it has 2 very important things you download. One of them is the latest iBrowse for 68K right here. All right, 2.58, 68K. The second that you have to download, AmiSSL, the latest version of AmiSSL. That creates the SSL certificates that make your browser actually mostly work. Now, I applaud that team. They're fantastic, and I will have a link in the description where you can actually donate a couple of bucks to these guys. iBrowse does a reasonable job with maybe 40% of websites out there. Does a less than reasonable job with about 30% of the other ones. And then it just doesn't work at all with a lot of websites. So for example, if we go to Google News, it actually works and it's usable, it's functioning. Let's go ahead and let it load up. Okay, so we've got some of Google News opening up here. See, it's trying to load in pictures. It's, you know, you know, it's just, it's an Amiga and it's old and it doesn't like fancy websites. But there are a lot of text-based websites out there, and we're going to do a whole episode on text-based websites. This one's called 68k.news. I love the name, and it's got, you know, updates, Russia's war with Ukraine from CNN, sports, things on Israel. Let's see, Samsung Galaxy S23 pre-orders are here, and you go to any of these, and it comes up with text-based news. Perfectly usable, incredibly fast on an Amiga. This is going to let me get my news fix without any problems at all. And there are a bunch of other text-based websites that I'm going to go over with you in the future. Now, getting email in iBrowse is more difficult. Up until like May or April or May of 2022, you could actually go right in iBrowse, go to gmail.com and tell it to use HTML view, and it would come up with this beautiful but older looking representation of your Gmail. Folders, everything, send, receive, attachments, worked great. Google, in their infinite wisdom, took that away from us just because they hate old things and only like new things. I don't know. You know, you can no longer do that. You can't do it with Outlook email. It just doesn't come up anymore. You used to be able to. I could get on here years ago and get my Fast or my Hotmail. It worked fine. They've changed all of that. So that's why we have to go to something like Simple Mail. I understand there's still some web-based email clients that do work on iBrowse, but that'll probably go away sooner or later. Now, one thing that does work surprisingly well is mobile Facebook. Let's take a quick look. So here we're on mobile Facebook, and it actually works okay. Oh, hey, there's David Murray, the 8-bit guy. How about that? Friend request. Oh, who's this guy? Atari Fred? This guy? Yeah, I think that's Atari Fred. Live now. I had another family emergency and I'm sick, so we'll do a short fun one today of Amiga News, Games, and Demos channel. I'm sorry I can't watch that, Bill. And, oh, here's my friend. That's Sophie. She's a sweetheart, Sophie Rose. And there's Marvin Drugsma. We all know him. You can post here. You can respond to things. You can put pictures up. So mobile Facebook actually works good. But mobile Twitter no longer does. Probably thanks to Elon Musk, because we blame him for everything. So what is a person to do? Well, let me show you. Thank you, Multitasking Amiga, for letting me do all these things at one time. We're going to open up TwittAmiga, and here's TwittAmiga right here. Now what this does is this is an Amiga Twitter client that's pretty good. Once you first start it, you want to create a user. Let's let it finish. So we go to add user right here, and what you're going to do is you're going to put in your username and password for your Twitter account. You're going to want to turn off two-factor authentication. It doesn't work with this right, so turn it off, log in with your username and password, and it creates a token on your Amiga that then allows you to connect anytime you want to. So you can then turn two-factor authentication back on. So once you properly get your account set up here, we're going to go ahead and click on Home, and it's going to retrieve my home timeline from Twitter, which is usually full of all kinds of cool people and awesome people. Let's take a look. All right, so once we're in my Twitter timeline, we can take a look at stuff here. Here's Bill Gates tries to install Movie Maker, January 2003. Here's Rob Caparetta. He's got a awesome YouTube channel. There's Sarah, Commodore Blog. She's so cool. Oz Retro Computer. Oh, who's this President Biden character? Daphne. See, so you can go in and read all of these tweets. You can retweet them. You can unfollow the user. Why would I want to do that? You can show more info and users about the tweets. Strangely enough, there's no reply to the tweets. That doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm going to talk to the guy who created this and see why there's no reply. Now, you can create your own tweet. So, for example, I'm at the top of the screen. Hey there. This is when I created the tweet on the hashtag Amiga for my new video. Nifty. So now that I've done that, I can click send there, and it updates that as my status. It works pretty well. It's not bad. I can see everything I need on TwittAmiga. I can't reply, which is weird and needs to be fixed. But, you know, it's a Twitter client. It certainly works, and it's going to continue to work until Elon screws this up too. Now, how about good old Mastodon that so many of us are rushing over to now that Twitter is imploding? Unfortunately, it does not work on iBrowse, which I'm actually really surprised with because it's not that complicated of an interface, but I just can't log in. I've tried several times. I've tried going around different places, and it will not let you log in. It just gives you a blank screen. So what can you do about Mastodon? Well, our friend Midwin, who's the author of Amyberry, has been working on a Mastodon client for the Amiga, and he's getting pretty far with it, and I hope he finishes soon. We'd love to see that. Now, how about other things? Discord is an interesting possibility, and there have been some people who use IRC to tap into one of the APIs for the Discord chat, so you can use IRC to communicate back and forth over Discord through chatting, but you're not really seeing the new posts and things like that, so it's not quite there, and I'm not a big fan of Discord anyways, but hopefully we'll get some kind of Discord client. I've never actually tried it in iBrowse. I should probably try it. I bet it'll explode. Reddit works okay. There's a mobile Reddit site that works fine. You can get to Reddit right on iBrowse. I just wish that every single subreddit that was dedicated to Commodore, it wasn't filled with, oh, I don't know, how do I phrase it? Self-righteous jerks? Gatekeepers? Possibly douche nozzles? I just can't think of the right words for those Reddit users. But now, on to entertainment on the Amiga. Just for giggles, last night, I went to my good friend's website, Pixel Gaiden. You've heard me talk about a bunch. That's Cody, Eric, and our good friend Tim Drew, aka Sanxion. They've got a great podcast. I went and I tried to download one of their MP3 podcasts from their great website, and you know what? It worked perfect. Hey, look, Retro Rewind. So as long as you've got a nice fast Amiga, something with like a 68040 chip or 68060 or a Vampire, you can download MP3 files from your favorite podcasts like Pixel Gaiden or like the Amigos. And let's open one up, take a quick look. Here's episode 97. Open that up.
Coming
up
on
goodness.
episode 97
Look
of
at that.
Pixel
The
Gaiden.
podcast,
We head back to kindergarten with our
165
Patreon song.
megabyte podcast.
We battle two
downloaded
arcade reticle
working
shooters.
fine on the Amiga.
St. Tim
no
has a
problems
Christmas
at all.
gift for us. Our retro Christmas has come true 30 years later.
But we want totally internet-enabled entertainment, not just downloads. So enter IMP3, which is Infinity Modules Player by Huen, J-U-E-N, Huen in Poland. This you download this, it's literally one file. And it doesn't even have an icon. You launch it from the CLI or you launch it from Workbench, but it doesn't have an icon. I put an icon on there. What this does, when you first launch it, it creates this cool interface like I've got right on here. You tell it whatever screen size you want, or you can have it on the Workbench. And you can then stream over 100,000 Amiga mod files, SID files, MP3s, and podcasts. When you first start it, it's going to go ahead and create an account for you, a numerical account. You run this little command to give yourself a nickname. I'm Tenmark. You see Tenmark right down there. You can do things like set your screen colors, everything like that. You can create favorites lists of your favorite songs. Here I've got a couple of them that I was listening to last night, and you can play from your favorite songs if you want to, or you can just totally do it randomly and say, here's the top songs here, and we're going to click play, and it is literally going to work like a shuffle play for mod files online, streaming them right online. Isn't that the coolest thing in the world? And you can kind of chat with other people on here. There's some kind of file transfer protocols. I think we're going to get into this a little more heavily and do an actual show on it. Here, if you see something specifically you want in the list of favorites here, like here's Hoffman's Run CMD. I'm going to click on it. You see here it's downloading the song, and in a few seconds it'll start playing it. Now we're cranking away a cool Hoffman song called Run CMD. I have never heard this one, but I'm sure it's fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my favorites here. Boom! It's now in my favorites right there. Hoffman Run CMD, so I can listen to it anytime I want to. You can create whole playlists in here. Isn't this the coolest little program for being able to do something really useful and really fun with your online Amiga? I absolutely love it. But how about YouTube? Obviously, we can't watch YouTube on iBrowse. It's just not going to work. You can sort of get to the interface and see the videos. You can't ever play them. Enter this cool program called AmiTube, which I am just experimenting with, and we're going to do a whole show on it soon. With AmiTube, what you can do is you launch this, and then you give it a Amiga, or you give it a little shortcut to the YouTube video that you want to play on the Amiga. So I've got one right here. We're going to call it up. Oh, look at this. 10-minute Amiga Retrocast, Amiga 2 meg chip RAM upgrade, introducing the Ramses. Load preview. It's going to load the thumbnail. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Now, how would you play this on your Amiga? Well, like this. Normally, what this does is it takes the YouTube video, sends it to this guy's server, who then converts it into either CDXL in 32 colors, CDXL for AGA Amigas in 256 colors, or MPEG-1 format for playing back in something like Riva. So you tell it how you want to convert it. This thing even works on basic Amigas. And then you use something like multi-view to play it back, Or for like MPEG files, you would use Riva to play it back with an RTG or an AGA system. And you tell it to convert the video. So in this case, we would just tell it to get the original and then what format we want it to be in. MPEG layer 1, there we go. And then we download it. It's crazy. It takes a while, and I don't have one downloaded, which is why I don't have one to show you now. But we're going to spend some more time with this. This is a cool little utility. So far, maybe half of my internet needs are truly met with the Amiga. You know, I'm not going to get on Instagram, I don't think. I've never tried. I need to try. YouTube videos, I'm going to miss being able to click on a YouTube video and just play it. But it'll be fun to download and convert, say, half a dozen or a dozen videos in advance of this project that I'm going to be doing, and have them ready to play back. Why not? You know, why not? I can do it. There's some issues with Mastodon. I can't get to my Mastodon account, which is kind of sad. Maybe by the time I actually do this project, the Mastodon client will be almost done. One can hope. But I assume that you guys have some other really cool uses for your Amigas on the internet, and I'd love to hear about it in the comments so I can try it out and probably do a show on that too. So let me know in the comments below. Huge thanks to my patrons. You guys are the best. Here you see their names in all their HTML glory on my 10mark webpage. Pretty awesome, huh? Right there on iBrowse. But no, don't go looking for it. I've already taken it down. Thanks for all your wonderful support. If you're interested in supporting me, pop over to patreon.com/10mark, probably in a browser other than iBrowse, and sign up. You're helping the channel. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun in this project, getting everything set up to work on my Amiga 4000 to be my daily driver. And in the end, I think it's going to be a pretty wicked machine that any of you can emulate. I mean, really, literally right now, the only thing out of the ordinary in here is a retargetable graphics card, which you don't need in here, and a 68060 CPU, which is, they're easy to get now, and it worked fine in an 042, albeit a little bit slower. If you have any great ideas in general on how to make my Amiga a daily driver, what programs to use, holler at me in the comments below. You know I love to hear from you guys. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, etc., etc., etc. But until next time, this is Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast, signing out.